Hello, everyone. My name is JB, and I live in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Today, I'm going to tell you a story about how I came to earn a master's degree. So, my story starts in North Carolina. Um, I had mom and dad, brother and sister, regular family, but we just didn't have any money. And we really didn't have any money after 1996 when my mom got cancer, and we had huge medical bills, and my parents wanted to pay medical bills, and they did that before anything else. And so, because of that, we had a hard time for my whole childhood, and still up until just a couple of years ago. My family had really bad financial issues because my dad wanted to pay the medical bills, and so we didn't have money for housing, for food, for clothing, for health insurance. I never had health insurance when I was a kid. I mean, I didn't go to the doctor very much, other than when I was small. I was like 1 to 5 or 0 to 5. I went a lot, but there was definitely no money for college. And even though I had done really well in elementary school, middle school, and high school academically, I just about always had A's or A's and B's. Every once in a while, C, but not very much. Maybe a couple my whole life. But I was academically qualified to be in college. I deserved to be in college. I was more prepared than most people who went to college that were my age, by a lot. But I didn't get to go. And so I went to work instead. I graduated early in December 2003, and then I was working at Taco Bell, and I just started working there full time for a few months after I graduated, 6 months I think, and then I went to work for my uncle who owned a tile company, the tile company that my dad helped build, and that my grandfather started, 1950s. But my uncle, he paid me very poorly. He paid me my first paycheck was the minimum wage until I went and talked to him, and I said, "Hey, I deserve more than the minimum wage." And then there was like first he defended it, then he said um, it was a clerical error, and then he said it was my aunt's decision. But he just wanted to pay me as little as he could so that he could have more profit for himself. And I worked at night when I worked for him, or I worked at night. I worked during the day, and I went to school at night. So I took classes from the Central Piedmont Community College in Charlotte, downtown. I used to have the guy I was working with drop me off, or drop me off somewhere to where I could take a bus and get there. And so I would work from like, I think we had to be at work at like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and then I would be at school until like 9 or 9:30 at night, and then get home and have to take a shower and have to eat and have to do all the other things. And I go to bed at like 11 and then wake back up at 6 or 5:30 or whatever time it was. But I was working all the time. I mean, or studying, and or going to school. I didn't really study, but I did okay. I my GPA over there was something like 3.5 or 3.6. I don't know. It was all right. But I would just go to the lectures. I would do the homework if there was homework, write the paper if there was a paper. But I basically did everything off the top of my head, and I didn't have to study. I didn't study. I would just take the exams and do my best. But I did that for a while, and then I was like 20 years old. I decided that working for the family company isn't for me because there's no future for me in there. It's not like I was going to become the manager or the owner or even get paid well ever, because they were just taking advantage of the fact that I was their family and that I would be loyal to them, just like they did to my dad for all those years. He worked with them for like 30 years. But 20, yeah, about 30 years. And so I left, and I went out. I went on this long journey, through New Orleans Orleans, Austin, El Paso, Albuquerque, Denver, Boulder, and then Phoenix. And I got to Tucson, Arizona. I really liked it there because it was the desert. It has those cactuses, the saguaro cactus. They have mountains. It's just a really nice place. It's warm all the time, almost all the time, and it's a great city. So I decided to stay there. I started taking classes at Pima Community College, like at night, and I did a lot of different things. I worked for a conservation organization that did work on public lands. I worked at spring training, baseball, doing lots of different stuff, selling merchandise and programs and all that. But in Tucson in those days, probably still, you don't make very much money unless you have a high degree, Um, there were like call center jobs, and there were restaurant jobs and hotel jobs, and that was about it. And those jobs did not pay well. And that wasn't for me, so I went to Alaska in the summer 2006. I worked in a seafood processing plant, or actually that was 2007. In the summer 2007, then after that, I went to college full time at Pima Community College in Tucson. And so I got a few semesters, 3 I think, 4, 3.5 semesters of credits, and so I had about 2 full years by that point. And by that point, I was 23, 24, 22, yeah, something like that. But I realized that like it was going to be too hard to just stay in Tucson because of the way that the economy was there, and also by that time it was late 2008, and we had the issues with the economy. We were at risk of falling into a Great Depression, but we had a Great Recession, and I knew that I was going to need to find a place where I could be employed stably and make decent money throughout the recession, because there was a fear that it was going to last like 10 years. It didn't quite last that long, but it could have. And I made the right decision. I went to Dodge City, Kansas, and I worked in a meatpacking plant, and I had plenty of work. It was actually a little slow there, but still, it was good. It was like 40 hours a week, every week. And the problem with that was that I was working a lot, and there was a community college there, but I already had two years of community college, and so I needed to go to a 4-year university. There wasn't one there. But I mostly, during that time, from 2009 to 2014, I just worked a lot. I worked with the union that represented the employees in my plant. I worked for a newspaper from 2013 to 2014. I what else did I do? Just did a lot of things. Oh, I also worked for the Dodge City Law in a professional indoor football team. As a writer, I wrote stories for them about their team. But during that time, I didn't get many classes, many credits. I did start going to Fort Hays State University in 2012 and 2013, and I got a few credits there online because they still have a great online program. It's one of the best in the country at a really affordable price, relatively affordable compared to a lot of other universities, most other universities. And so I got some credits there, and then I went back to Charlotte, North Carolina, where I'm originally from. Worked there a couple years in a factory, and or not a factory, but a warehouse. And every day I just came home tired, and I had a commute, and I just didn't focus on taking classes. So I didn't take any classes during that time. But then I started back in 2016, took a few classes for one semester, did really well from Fort Hays State University. But then I just got busy again. I went up to Alaska again and worked in Dutch Harbor, Alaska. If you've ever seen that show Deadliest Catch, a lot of those crab boats, some of them come to the plant where I was working. Um, but there you work up to 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for like months at a time. And so that there just wasn't an opportunity for me to take credit classes. Like during that whole time, I took non-credit classes just for fun from different universities, but also from like Coursera or Ed2Go. Um, these are MOOCs, so massive online open courses that anyone can take, and then at the end of those courses you get a little certificate, but it doesn't really mean anything. It's not like you applied to the school and you were accepted and then you took classes and then you got credit. That's not what it's like. But it's still good because you get to learn stuff from people, professors who are really brilliant. So I use those opportunities to learn. And then after in 2018, I just decided that I wanted to have my own apartment again. I wanted to have a place to live. I wanted to have a regular life because living in Alaska is pretty rough, especially if you work in seafood processing like I did because of what I explained, how much you have to work there. And the schedule and the fact that you don't have time off and there's not much to do and you're not really connected to family or anybody else. It's just rough. So I decided to go somewhere else, and I took a look at basically every town and city in the United States, and I decided that Green Bay, Wisconsin was the best place for me. So I moved to Green Bay. I just took a bus here, showed up, stayed at an Airbnb, rented a room, found the job, started working at a meatpacking plant called JBS, and I worked there a few years. I did the same thing that I had always been doing, working in the plants, which was advocating for the rights of workers because I was a worker, and I cared about the rights of everyone else too. And I really made myself unwelcome, even though I was a really good worker and I always did my job and I showed up on time and everything, and I came to work every day and all that. Made myself unwelcome because I was organizing a lot of the other employees, and the management did not like that because I was teaching employees about their rights and I was showing them how to work together to improve the conditions and stuff like that. And the plants don't like that because they want things their way so that they can make it as efficient as possible, even if it harms workers. They want to make it as efficient as possible so that it'll be as profitable as possible. And so I was retaliated against, and basically I made a deal where the company paid me to leave, and they gave me some money. It wasn't very much, but it was some, and I signed an agreement not to sue them or to file any complaints with any more complaints because I'd already filed some. Any more complaints with agencies, the government, and they gave me the money and I left. The problem was that I didn't have a job. But then, during that same time, that's when COVID came. That was in 2020, and it was early 2020, and it was a really bad time to be a worker. But I worked in some different places. I just took whatever job, and none of these jobs were good. But I decided in 2020 to go back to school full time, and so I years before, had taken classes from Port Hays State University, and I did that again online. And I finished the last 2 years of credits that I needed. I needed something around 2 years worth, but a little less. But I finished those, so in 2020, I finally graduated with a bachelor's degree. So basically, it took me 18 years to get a 4-year degree. I had actually taken some college classes in high school from South Piedmont Community College while I was at Monroe High School in North Carolina, but for all intents and purposes, from the time that I graduated high school in 2003 to the time that in the winter of 2003, my actual graduation was in 2004, but from that time, 2004 until 2022 was 18 years. And most people, they get the opportunity, not most people, but some people, they get the opportunity to go to college right after high school when they're 18 years old, and they go for 4 years, and they meet lots of new people, and they kind of discover things. They learn things about life, and they socialize, and they build networks, and they are introduced to all sorts of courses and ideas. And then, a lot of times they meet the person that they're going to be with for the rest of their life. They get married to someone, or they just have lifelong friends that they meet. But I didn't get any of those things. And, I didn't have a career. Well, I had careers, but not the kind of career that I wanted, like a professional career that a lot of people get after they graduate college. I didn't have that because I didn't have the college experience. I didn't have those networks and all that other stuff I mentioned. And but I graduated in 2022 from Port Hays State University. I didn't actually get to go to the graduation, but I did graduate, and I got my diploma and all that. I'm very proud of it because I did really good work. I did amazing work. I know that, especially in the last few years, the professors were impressed by me because my writing was really good. And part of that was because I'm older. I had a lot of writing experience. And I had a lot of life experience and just knew how to do things. And I could explain things well, better than most kids can. 18-year-old, 20-year-old kid, just compared to me at that time when I was like 36, it's just not fair. But I did really well, really proud of it. And I immediately decided to, even before I graduated, I applied to a master's degree program. And that was at the University of Arizona College of Law. And the master's degree program was called Master of Legal Studies. And it's for people who want to do jobs where you need to know about the law, but you don't actually have to be a lawyer. And I just figured, it would open up opportunities for me in a lot of different areas. And just having a master's degree generally is good. But University of Arizona is located in Tucson, the same place I used to live, where I went to Piedmont Community College in 2006 to 2008. I explained about that. But I remember going to University of Arizona, just walking through the campus a lot. And I remember one day I was sitting on the steps of the business school, and I cried because I thought I was never going to even get an associate's degree, much less a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. But I ended up doing it. It's taken me a long time, but I ended up achieving those goals because they were very important to me. And so I should tell you about that program, I guess. The Master of Legal Studies program, basically you study law courses. A lot of them are very similar to the first year law school courses for JD students. They're not exactly the same, but kind of similar. And in that program, you do a lot of writing and do a lot of analysis of cases and situations, and you just generally learn about the law. But I had been learning about the law for many years because of my work with the union and advocating for workers. And when I worked for the newspaper at night or in the morning actually, but and when I um, worked for the Dodge City Law, has nothing to do with the actual law. It's a football team, but still needed to know about different legal ideas because I was um, writing articles for the public. So you have to be careful and make sure that you do things the right way. And so I kind of knew about the law because of that. And I was just generally interested in it for many years. I took, as I mentioned before, a lot of different courses to learn about the law. Um, and I used to listen to like um, law school lectures that they used to have online from like 2009 to 2014 when I was working at the plants. I think starting in 2011, there were 2010 or 2011. You could in the plant you could use these noise canceling earphones, so it would allow you to listen to music, but at the same time not hurt your hearing because it would protect your hearing because the music wasn't that loud that it was going to damage your hearing, but all the other outside noise was stopped from coming into your ear and destroying your hearing. But instead of listening to music, I would listen to these law school lectures. So I would go to the Dodge City Public Library on the weekends or in the morning or whenever I had time, and I would download lectures that were posted online because in those days there weren't as many podcasts. When people or organizations and schools and stuff, they recorded their lectures on just the audio. And so they had these MP3s that you could go listen to the lectures and you could download them. And they had a lot of different schools did, the law schools did. And so I would go and download them and then listen to them while I was working and just kind of learn about the law. And I would also download like Supreme Court cases, oral arguments, audio, and listen to those, and just to try to learn about the law. So when I did this master's degree program in Arizona, I was very familiar with the law already. Not to say I knew everything because I listened to some audio and I took some classes and I just learned on my own, read a lot of books. But I was familiar with the law, so I was very comfortable. And so I did very, very well in the program. I took 10 classes and I made A's in 9 and I made a B in 1. And I could have made an A in that, but I just didn't take the final exam because I just didn't want to. Because it was a property law class and I had no interest in the class, did not enjoy the class, did not find it exciting or stimulating or anything. So I just didn't take the final exam and still made it a B. But I think in that program I just showed what skill I have in writing and participated in a lot of different things. Like I got to give a speech to the JD Workers' Rights Clinic, even though I'm not a lawyer. I wasn't in the JD program. I just had a lot of understanding about the subjects that they were talking about in that class. So my professor, who also taught that workers' rights clinic, she invited me to come speak. But I would have conversations with the dean. I participated in the Richard Grand legal writing competition. I was a teaching assistant in the bachelor's degree program, Master of Legal Studies program, and there were also some LLM students, which are people who are lawyers in other countries, but they come here and they get their LLM degree, and that enables them to take the bar exam so that they can become lawyers in the United States. So we had some of those in the class too, in my classes that I was a teaching assistant in, and I really enjoyed that because I got to interact with all kinds of people, and I got to help them meet their potential and teach them and share what I knew and what has made me successful so that they can learn new things, and become successful in their own. And I feel like, I've always been a teacher in one way or another, even though I've never had a classroom and I don't have a teaching license. I've been a teacher because I've taught people things in order to help them. And so that was just a really great experience. But I graduated in December, so just like less than a month ago. And I'm really proud of it because, like I said earlier, there was a time when I thought this was never going to happen because my family did not have money. My family doesn't even support education. They don't believe in education. They don't, other than like my mom was a preschool teacher, my sister was a preschool teacher, and my aunt was a second grade teacher. So they believe in education to that extent, but they don't believe in like going to college and getting a master's degree and learning about all the different things that are happening in the world and trying to better understand the world and doing all this. They don't believe in that. They just believe like you get your high school diploma, you maybe go to college for a year or two to learn how to do a trade or a basic job, and then you do that and you have a family and that's it. But so I didn't have support from my family throughout this process, and but I still did it because it's what I wanted, and now I'm doing a second master's degree. It's from Wichita State University. Remember, I used to live in Kansas. And that master's degree is going to be a Master of Human Resources Management. So basically, the same area that I've spent a lot of time studying, workers' rights, but the other side of that. And so I want to better understand employment and how companies, organizations deal with employment issues and labor issues. And I think I have a lot to teach the people teaching the classes and the other students that are going to be in there because I have a completely different perspective and I have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge. And so it'll be interesting to have conversations with people about those things. But I'm going to do that, and hopefully, as long as I don't get too busy with work, I'll be able to get through that, and I'll do well, and then I'll have a second master's degree. And I have been thinking for years. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to want to be a lawyer, but I thought it's just not possible because, that's not what people in my family do. And the situation with not having money and not having support and not even knowing where to start or how to become a lawyer. When I was a kid, I just didn't know these things. And didn't know any lawyers, didn't have any connections, didn't have any friends like that. But the people at the University of Arizona in the master's degree program, those law professors, they told me, they were like, you should be in law school. You should become a lawyer because you'll be really good at it. And they encouraged me to look at it again. I always kind of looked at it, but not really, just more just for information. But now it's a real option, and there's a possibility, not for sure, but there's a possibility that I'm going to go to law school and become a lawyer. So I'm excited about that. But anyway, thank you for listening to this story about how I went from being a kid in North Carolina who didn't have any money to a worker, to a person that wanted an education but just couldn't get it because of the way things worked out, to a guy who took classes and kept seeking an education and finally got one. And so I appreciate you listening. Thank you.